A Jack Daniels swilling, pizza-eating, dog-hating, whore-using, cocaine-abusing, hairy-backed, big-belly blowhard from New Jersey. The fat little bastard known as Artie Lang!
Hey, Artie Quitter Podcast. That's right. I just got a massive physical from a doctor. If you could look back at your life, like they say St. Peter's might have a tape of your life for us Catholic crowds, and shows it to you and goes over the bad and the good stuff. I think with me, a common theme you'd find is an incredible lack of preparation. I have an illness right now. I have like the flu that's going around New York. It's insane, the weather here. But I am surprisingly healthy for the 48 years I have lived. I haven't disintegrated. And one of the things I do live for and get up to, with a skip in my step, is the fact that people like Richard Roeper exist. I'm serious. Richard Roeper is a guy who can talk about anything and in a witty, fun way. He's one of those guys that, those guys that really don't exist in a romantic comedy, who can talk about anything, they're funny and successful, and they get hot broads, and but you like them. Richard Roeper is that guy, and he's my guest tonight to talk about the Oscars and a bunch of stuff. Richard, what's up, man?
Artie, I believe that was a word-for-word rendition of when Jack Parr introduced the young Senator Kennedy on his show. So I appreciate that.
Come on, see what I did in 2016? Who says something like that?
That's pretty good. That's good stuff. I like you make a little biblical reference there. Can I give you a quick? There was a movie that just came out called Risen.
Yeah,
and
right.
it was amazing because it's the first time I've seen a biblical epic that basically treated the crucifixion like the setup for an episode of Law and Order. Because it started with the crucifixion, and then the body disappears, and then Pilate brings in this guy and says, "This body's missing. Go quiz. We got suspects. We got Mary Magdalene, and we got." I'm not kidding you. I kept waiting to hear like chung chung or one of those things. It was unbelievable.
We got Mary Magdalene. Yeah, you see Jerry Orbach going, "Hey, Mary, yeah, sure you're not a whore, honey."
They actually go to the whorehouse, right? And by the way, not to become a biblical scholar, but I think she gave that stuff up after she started hanging with Jesus. So they go to the whorehouse, and she jumps out the back window, and then the other guy's waiting for her, just like on those TV shows.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, that's so funny. It's like an episode of Beretta. I think, that's what they do with film now. It's like not even close to art. They just try to set it up in the most simple of terms and explain it to you. I mean, it's so funny how it seems every year since the Passion of the Christ came out, there's some Catholic producer who tries to cash in on Easter, right? I mean, they just know Christians will go to a movie if it's about Easter in any way, shape, or form, right? Hello? Richard? I lost him. Richard, I'm sorry, man. Our phone went dead. Oh, God. I mean, maybe we're talking about God. You got to be careful.
Don't mess with it. See what happens?
Well, my question was, doesn't it seem like every year since the Passion of the Christ, there's some Catholic producer who tries to cash in on Easter, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly what this was. And then, I'm all for it if you can, tell the story in a different way. But to me, this was like they were trying to combine, the biblical stuff with modern stuff. So at one point, they bring in Bartholomew for questioning. And he actually says, they go, "Well, weren't you kind of a doubter?" He goes, "Yeah, but now that the body is gone, this changes everything." And I'm pretty sure there's never a moment in Mark or Luke where Bartholomew says, "This changes everything."
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's like this episode of The Bachelor.
Just hit you over the head with exposition.
This changes everything.
First of all, what did you think of Passion of the Christ? I never sat down and watched that whole thing, and I finally did, and I have a couple of insane, passionate observations. But what did you think of that film?
God, the one thing I gave Mel Gibson credit for was like, because I grew up in a Catholic church, and you'd have like the Stations of the Cross, and it would always be sort of this stylized thing where there was 1 ounce of blood dripping, and Mary Magdalene, dabbing Jesus's forehead. It's like, well, this is what really happened, folks. Okay,
Yeah. Well, listen. First of all, the anti-Semitism in it is so. I mean, some of it is like when the Jewish guy pays the Romans. Yeah. To kill Christ, basically, when he throws that bag of money, the bag of gold to him, the nose on the Jew who throws it is so over the top hooked, like his hand almost hits the tip of his nose as he throws the money. It's like it's insane.
Yeah, it really is, and it was like you almost expect them to say, "Also, I got a jewelry store around the corner if you'd like to get a good deal on some diamonds."
Yeah, he's gonna sell him something else. Man, I mean, and then for that to happen, and then for him to like 2 weeks later get caught drunk telling a cop, "You're a Jew, right?" You remember the couple of weeks Mel Gibson had back then? It really didn't look good for him.
Yeah, well, you remember, God, his father, I think it was like Hutton. He had one of those names that you only have like if you kind of believe the Holocaust didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
Remember, his dad was one of those Holocaust deniers. So
yeah,
it's like
that interview's unreal. Yeah.
So it's like, Mel at least has evolved a little bit.
His father claimed that the 6 million Jews were not killed. No, first of all, it wasn't 6 million; it was 2 million. Okay, yeah. I know. I love that argument. First of all, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, if it's 2 million, we're supposed to go, "Oh, what are we upset about?"
He's in that get over it camp.
Right, get over it. and the other part is he honestly said with a straight face that they didn't die; they moved to the Bronx.
Yeah, they fled. They all got warning and they fled.
Yeah, well,
so I'm like, right, that makes sense.
Well, if you asked anybody in the Bronx, by the way, in 1977, if they'd rather be there or Treblinka, they'd say there. They'd say Treblinka, bro. I just think it's a home run for a lot of these guys. If you just mention Easter. And you cash in. They know Christians will go. My mother goes. She cries every time, and she knows what's going to happen.
Well, and then you get like a lot of the conservative or far right media will say the movie Hollywood doesn't want you to see, or the movie the critics don't want you to see. I'm like, I don't want you to see it because it's a piece of crap, not because it's a biblical epic. You have to understand. I'm trying to protect you.
The movies Hollywood doesn't want you to see. Quick joke. This is an old joke about Easter that always got my grandmother. I'm going to share it. I never said this on the air. You as a Catholic, you might appreciate this. Guy goes up to St. Peter. St. Peter's looks up at his whole life and says, "Look, you're right on the fence. I got to give you a Christian quiz to let you in. And if you get this right, you can get in." He goes, describe what the Christmas is. He goes, "Oh, well, that's where we get a big turkey and we give thanks for everything." No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I can't. I'll give you one more chance. Describe what Thanksgiving is. That's where we get a big tree and we celebrate the birth of Christ. Nope, I can't let you in. I'll give you one more try because I'm St. Peter. I'll give you another shot. Describe what Easter is. Well, Easter is when God dies on the cross. Jesus dies on the cross for our sins. He waits for 3 days in the tomb, and then on Easter Sunday, he pulls the big rock away with the super strength he gets from his father, and he rises and comes out of the tomb into the sunlight. And St. Peter's goes, "That's great." The guy goes, "Wait, there's more. I understand if he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter."
Wow. Wow.
There's one for the if you're at the Writers Guild Awards, try that at the cocktail party.
I always, growing up too, every joke, St. Peter's, at the pearly gates, and even as a kid, I was like, so he just became a bouncer?
Right, that's all he is.
That's his job?
That's all he is.
You're not on the list. No?
Yeah, he's like Steve Rubell outside Studio 54.
Yeah, that's it? That's his gig?
Yeah, he's telling Ryan Felipe to take his shirt off.
Every hack political cartoonist, whenever anybody dies, Peter, there's Peter at the gate saying, "Come on in," Ted Koppel or whoever goes next. It's like there's Peter, like letting him in. I'm like, oh, that's great.
That's hilarious. I'm going to ask you this because I just saw this. It probably would never have come to my mind, but did you see on HBO Becoming Mike Nichols?
No, I have not seen that.
A guy named another director, Jack O'Brien, interviews Mike Nichols, and I gotta say, man, look, obviously, some of the stuff you don't even realize he did. I forgot that he did, because me and Danny were trying to figure it out. He did the movie with Meryl Streep and Silkwood. Yeah. He did Working Girl. I forgot he was Working Girl. Yeah. And of course they get into The Graduate. He directed on Broadway all of the Neil Simon movies. He directed the original Odd Couple with Carney and Matthau. But I never heard Mike Nichols really interviewed before. And my God, can that guy tell a story? It was so entertaining. I would recommend it. Where do you put him in the world of directors? Is he an overrated guy to you? Or
he's weirdly enough, even though obviously he's famous all the way back. Artie knows he did comedy, Nichols and May, and they were kind of trailblazers.
Yeah, they show that the stuff stands up. She is so funny.
Yeah, I mean they were doing stuff that kind of led to Second City and everything else. But he's one of those directors too, and some of my favorite directors are like look at Scorsese. He's another guy that you're like, oh wait a minute, he did The Age of Innocence. Right. And there's other directors that it's them, but Nichols is the kind of guy that can do anything from something like Silkwood, but then you'd say, wait a minute, he did Regarding Henry or The Birdcage, or then he did Primary Colors and
Primary Colors. What a great film. That's an underrated film.
He's a guy that could he could shift from stage to television to movies, but also it wasn't about like, oh, I'm going to make this a Mike Nichols film,
right?
Which certain directors do. Even the best will do that. I mean, Scorsese does have a certain style. A Tarantino movie is a Tarantino movie.
Woody Allen. I mean, Woody Allen's been writing he's been writing about the same 10 people for 30 years.
Yeah.
But
If I see that name of Susan Morse as the editor of his film one more time, I'm going to kill myself. It's like, I mean, I love Woody, but it's like, okay, really, are there any jazz records left for the opening title credits?
He gets in and just riffs it like Sidney Bechet and the clarinet, and everything's fine. He's got a brand new. Yeah, but listen. He writes about these characters. Where do these people exist? Even intellectuals, all these 28-year-olds who know about opera. I just don't. I don't know any of them, of course, but
but Nichols was that old school thing. It was about the material and the actors and stuff, and could just do. You don't have a lot of directors like that anymore. Who'd be like, oh yeah, I can direct the greatest stars in the world on Broadway. Then I'm going to shift gears and do an HBO movie. Then I'm going to do a comedy. Then I'm going to do a drama. I mean, they're just not out there anymore.
Well, to me, it's weird you say that. To me, who's like that are the Coen brothers. I mean, if you look at the Coen brothers, filmography, they have done every type of genre. Raising Arizona are rednecks in Arizona. You got a period piece in like Chicago's, Damon Runyon type New York or Chicago with Gabriel Byrne and Miller's Crossing. Nailing the people in that area of the world in Fargo. L.A. people in The Big Lebowski. Yeah. It's unbelievable how they can just nail everything they do.
Well, and that's what the Coen brothers have. They basically have gone almost to any genre, starting with Blood Simple, one of the great films of all time, where they were doing basically film noir. They're guys who clearly love movies, so they're paying tribute to every type of movie. And, they just did this movie called Hail Caesar that came out that nobody saw.
Right.
And it got mixed reviews, and I loved it. And I got a lot of movie fans, just saying to me, I can't believe you like that piece of crap.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't think in some cases that people understood, quite frankly, that they were sending up all those movies and paying tribute to them, because people were like, well, 1 minute it's a Roman epic and then it's a song and dance thing, and I'm like, yeah, and it was filmed. So like, they do a number with Channing Tatum as a sailor, right? And they're at the bar and they're saying, well, boys, in 8 months we're going out to sea for 8 months, no more girls. And then they start dancing, and Channing Tatum, to his credit, he did just what Gene Kelly did. Gene Kelly really couldn't sing. So it's kind of like they kind of talk their way through the song. But as the number continues and they talk about no women for 8 months, they get more and more excited about that idea. and they're dancing closer and closer together. No more dames. And I'm like, do you guys not get what they're doing? I mean, to me it was so good.
Really?
And then people were like, well, George Clooney's overacting in this thing. Clooney plays a guy who's starring in a B movie, a Roman, epic kind of thing.
Right.
And they're like, he's overacting. And I'm like, he's playing a crappy actor.
Wow.
It's like, to me, it was like people were just taking it literally. And if you look what they did with that movie, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, people who don't, like, honestly, that would be a deal breaker for a chick with me. Not sex, but marriage. If someone doesn't if she didn't get a joke like that, I'd say, I don't think we can hang out. I mean, that's what they do. They do stuff. To me, they've had one miss, and it's not even a big swing and a miss. The Hudsucker Proxy, because I don't know. I think Tim Robbins, a different guy, might have been better. I love Tim Robbins. He wasn't right for that, but it's unreal. They're batting about 900 in all different genres. But
well, you know, a guy like Clooney, I mean, it's so funny because throughout the movie, the main plot is he's this kind of leading man. He gets kidnapped by a bunch of communist writers who want to hold him hostage and get money for their cause. And when they kidnap him, he's wearing like the Roman sandals and like the kind of the skirt and everything. He never takes the costume off the whole movie. And the other thing, the great thing they did, which Hollywood never does, when he gets kidnapped and he's brought to the home that these guys got, all these guys who are like, these communist writers who are being blacklisted and they're given all their lofty ideas, the Coen brothers pull back and they're in the biggest house on Malibu that they had rented out. And they're like, wow, we still like comfortable living. It actually, because you never can make fun of those guys.
Right.
And it made them into like complete, like, hypocritical buffoons. And I'm like, this is actually pretty great.
Yeah, that is, yeah. I mean, something like that. Actually, you just sold it for me. I was a guy who was my maybe pass on it, but because the Clooney stuff with the Coen brothers from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" and "Intolerable Cruelty," I liked them, but they're on the lower end.
Clooney calls that his numbskull trilogy because he plays dumb guys.
Right, he does. That's right.
He goes, that's my numbskull trilogy.
Yeah, "Intolerable Cruelty" is such a great script. They don't talk about that enough, but I just think Albert Finney and Miller's Crossing, that one, the dialogue they get, I don't know if they research it, but there's one paragraph of dialogue that Finney does that I like to repeat sometimes that to me is as perfect as writing gets. John Polito is screaming at him, who's amazing in it too. And he goes, I'm sick of the high hat and blah, blah, blah. I want to kill Bernie. And he goes, this is the run Albert Finney has. I memorized this. He goes, and I'm telling you, you'll have trouble. You came here to see if I'd kick if you killed Bernie? Well, there's your answer. As far as what I know and what I don't know in this town ain't worth knowing. The cops ain't closed none of your dives, and the DA hasn't touched any of your rackets. You ain't bought a license to kill bookies, and today I ain't selling any. So take your flunky and dangle. Take your flunky and dangle.
That's so great.
I want to name my next book that.
That's awesome. Well, you're right about the Coen brothers, Artie. I mean, you can go to like stores in LA that have scripts, that you can actually read them.
Right.
It's like something like The Godfather. But I mean, there are a lot of scripts and you read them and it's like, well, it doesn't really translate. But the Coen brothers, it's like it's like reading good literature. I mean, their screenplays, you're like, wow.
I just was lucky enough to. That I had to audition for, but I ended up. They ended up letting the character be me. I play a comic in New York, Stretch, who ends up being me in this this show on HBO that Judd Apatow wrote.
Right,
called Crashing, and it's about comedians crashing, a young comic crashing on older comics who he admires couches. And this younger guy, Pete Holmes, plays the guy, and they asked me to come in and read for it. And Apatow had read my book, so he kept yelling out, "Just tell stories about you." And let me improvise. And I've never had a more wonderful experience working with somebody. Apatow is this powerful guy, and a million things going on at once. It was like working with a kid I went to high school with or something. He makes you very relaxed, and it got picked up, and I'm proud of it. It shows you what a good director is. So some people are that loose with it, but you're right. Other people with the Coen brothers, you go, oh my God. And actors just want to be able to improv, and this is such an amazing story that maybe you heard this before about Albert Brooks. The actor John McGinley, who's great and everything, he did the movie Mother with Brooks, and he's in his little trailer looking at the script. Albert Brooks comes in and goes, John, I understand that you're very good at improvising. You're good at just doing stuff off the cuff. Like you can just make stuff up just right off the top of your head. Is that true? Like the groundlings type thing? And you say that to an actor, they just get baited. And actually, I'm great at that. Actually, he goes, you're good at that. Just total improvisation. You're amazing at that. Yeah, I am. And Brooks takes a pause and goes, well, on this, I'd like you to stick to the text.
That's so great.
Do me a favor and don't change a goddamn word.
We're not going to do one for you. We're not going to give you a moment.
One for you.
That's so great.
Right. But it's
Albert Brooks is another guy. Talk about a writer, director. Another one of those guys.
Yeah.
And same thing with Judd Apatow. But they have such respect for the history of it. But Albert Brooks. even a movie like Concussion, mixed reviews, right? But I'm watching Concussion. As you guys know, I see these movies maybe a month before they come out. Obviously, I know Will Smith is the lead. I try not to like see the trailers or find out that much. And they're like, and there's Albert Brooks as the chief coroner of Pittsburgh, and I'm like, boom, here we go. You know, I know at least I'm going to get 4 or 5 really good scenes. And sure enough, the way he gets in and out of a car, and puts his like sack lunch on the roof of the car, and then stops to say something, and then finds his keys. It's all just so perfectly done.
Interesting. It's just exactly. He and he makes stuff better. It's so great that he's in those films that he wrote, like Lost in America and Modern Romance, because, you know, another guy wouldn't have got it. I don't think
you go back, and you know, Modern Romance, of course, it's in some ways so dated because so much of it is answering machine humor. But as you know, Bob Einstein is his brother. You know, Super Dave Osborne.
That scene is
who's you know Marty Funkhauser on Curb. But the scene where Albert decides that he's going to get in shape after his girlfriend dumps him, and he wants to get like the $15 thing, and then the guy tries to sell him the $150 thing, and he goes, and Albert goes, "Oh no, that's too much. I misjudged you. I thought you were serious about getting in shape. I'm sorry." I mean, it's so great.
It's perfect. It really is perfect.
Richard, buy the box. Buy the box.
Buy the box. No, I misjudged you. Buy the box. You'll be good.
I mean, it's great that Albert Brooks thought of his brother for that. They don't do anything together, you know. And he probably said, Bob Einstein did. I guess this will be the episode where we tell stories, but you know. Bob Einstein did a couple episodes of the Norm Show, the sitcom I did with Norm. And Norm did a great thing. Norm had all this power because he had his own show for a couple of years, and he just asked for people he loved to work with, and they would get him. You know, the last thing Richard Pryor ever did on television is an episode of the Norm Show. I saved the call sheet with me and Richard Pryor on it.
Wow.
Well, I lost it in a move, of course. But, that and a girlfriend. But I wish Richard Pryor had not done it actually because he couldn't move, and we tried to write jokes, and a woman who was handling him said, "Richard, if you can get through this, we'll get you whiskey and a woman." That's what she said.
God.
But you know, Norm whispered something to him, and you know he was dead. It's got to be the last thing he ever did. But he asked for Bob Einstein, and Einstein executive produced the Red Fox variety show. Okay, after Sanford and Son. And he had a story about Red Fox, several, but this is one of the funniest. Stuff like this doesn't happen anymore in politically correct Hollywood. So he Red Fox the first day is late for the monologue. An audience is waiting there, and they go to Einstein. You got to go get him. He goes to his dressing room, and the doors are ajar, and he goes, Red, come on, we're ready for you. We need you to get out of here right now. You're late. And nothing. And then he knocks on the door. The door opens a little bit. Red Fox has the makeup woman's dress up, and his face is in her ass. His face is stuck in her ass, and there's lines of cocaine on the table. The audience is waiting. And Einstein sees this and goes, "Red, we really have to go." And Fox takes his head out of the woman's ass and goes, "Can a fella relax?"
Oh my God!
To hear Bob Einstein tell that, like that dry deadpan. Norm and I laughed for 3 days. Wow! But yeah, Albert Brooks, even when he's in something that's not good, is like the acting in Taxi Driver and Broadcast News, and he brings something to that no one else can. You're right.
About once a month, I quote the Broadcast News scene. And of course he's the guy that's getting kind of put on the back burner. William Hurt doesn't even realize that he got the promotion to London bureau chief. He's like, "Don't you understand that?" And the William Hurt character says, what do you do when your real life exceeds your dreams? And Brooks says, "You keep it to yourself."
No, that's perfect. Exactly. Well, there's a terrible movie called Mickey and Maude that was one of the Dudley Moore cash-ins after Arthur made like 50 movies. So there's a scene where a guy cuts off. He's arguing with a guy, and this sounds so improvised, like out Albert Brooks' mouth. Albert Brooks is one of those things. It's one of those things in the movie, like a bad movie. You fast forward to him. It's worth it because every time he speaks, it's funny.
Yeah.
And a guy cuts his tie with a pair of scissors because they're arguing. This nut just cuts his tie off in like a wacky comedy moment. And Albert Brooks, he gives this. He takes the tie and he goes, "Oh my God Almighty! A Kennedy gave me this tie. Oh my God!" Yeah, it's just it's unreal. The other quick story about Red Fox. Damon Wilson had become a real activist. He told Red Fox at the variety show, he goes, "You really should have more black writers. It was all Jewish guys." And Red Fox got really mad. "You're right." And he told Einstein, I want black writers on his staff, man. And every show was killing. So Einstein replaces some of the Jewish writers with 5 black guys. They do the read through the next Monday, and it bombs for the network. And Red Fox slowly got up and lit a cigarette, and went, "Bring me back my Jews."
Wow.
I'm like, who did he hire? Like the guy at the deli? You're a perfect guy to ask this, Richard, because what you like about popular culture and everything. I hope somebody is on the road right now with Donald Trump, some artist, somebody like the Coen brothers or something, documenting everything to eventually make, not a documentary, but a great film. But there's got to be a movie and what's happening behind the scenes. Like, who's the guru who's telling him, yeah, say this about the Pope, or do an impression of Jeb Bush and call him. Is there someone doing that? Is it all improvised? His sons are talking about the importance of hard work. His sons,
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the producers, like the curb line, where they're trying to make a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost think, and people will say to me, geez, you're tweeting so much and writing about him so much. I'm like, you don't understand. I covered the Bill Clinton presidential campaign. I covered the OJ trial. I have never seen anything like this in my life, because he really is, and you got to give him credit. He's like, watch this. And like you said, I could shoot somebody. He can say anything. If any other serious candidate said one of the 50 things he said, they'd have to drop out of the race.
Yeah, right. Unbelievable. Yeah.
I'm watching that debate a couple weeks ago, and he's telling Jeb Bush that if he had been president, that his brother was a weakling, and that this never would have happened under his watch. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Unreal.
And poor John Kasich kept saying, what are we doing right now, folks? Are we going to talk about anything? Yeah. And it doesn't matter. And Trump he's got this. He's almost 70 years old,
right?
And he's got this childlike thing. First thing he always says about someone is, "Well, I like him. He's a nice guy,"
right?
And then he tells you how he beat him in golf,
right?
And how the guy came begging to him. And it's like the inside of his mind is like that movie Inside Out, where all those people are running around, little cartoon characters,
right.
And then all these people are voting for him, and I don't, you talk to people who are supporting Trump, and they keep saying, well, he's going to shake things up. And I'm like, you do understand, though, that if he's elected president, on his first day, he can't actually start building a wall. It's not like he's now the new head of a gas station, and he's adding 3, and I think they don't get that. I go, he has to kind of go, there's a certain process.
Right.
And people really think he'll load up a bunch of airplanes for 12 million immigrants. He'll start building a wall. And he's just like the craziest. The minute I'm in charge, China will be afraid of us.
No, well, listen. He again, the relationship that Trump had with Jeb Bush on this whole campaign is the most extraordinary thing in the history of politics.
Yeah.
It's literally like Jeb Bush was his little brother who he would bitch slap every time. He's part of a royalty family in politics, Jeb Bush, and he's just like going, "Oh, Jeb," he's doing impressions of him.
I know, and here's the thing. Say what you want about politics. Jeb Bush is a fairly substantial guy who actually has tried to do some good things. I don't agree with a lot of his stuff, and it was Donald Trump was basically putting his hand on top of his head and saying, and his arms were too short to hit Trump. He turned him. He reduced it. This guy spent $100 million and got 2% of the vote.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
And even like the religious stuff. Come on. Do we really think Donald Trump was going to church? And then he finds this Bible and he claims it's his favorite book. And going back to the biblical stuff, the Pope says something about him, and he says. He goes, quite frankly, for a religious leader to question someone's faith is disgusting. And then I couldn't help. I tweeted out, that's all Jesus ever says to his followers. "Oh, ye of little faith, I question your faith. Doubting Thomas, you don't believe me."
He said, "Who is the Pope to question my religion?"
Who's this guy to say my faith? It's disgusting for a religious leader to question anyone's faith. And I'm like, But that's the plot of the Bible.
Everything he's saying is well. He's also showing human emotions. Like these politicians don't know. He's like a brash New Yorker, and he's yelling shit out. And Jeb Bush, even in his commercials, every syllable's pronounced like "we will defeat ISIS," and then you cut "I will bomb the shit out of ISIS," and it's just the contrast. People are buying it, and traveling around the world doing stand up around this country. There's real desperation. There's 24-year-old kids with nothing going on, and they're ready for anything.
That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, look, he's tapping in. There's this anger. And to this day, you want to make a bet on the elections?
Yeah.
Yes. But you look at the fact. Okay, most of these polls, Donald Trump's getting like 32%. First of all, that means 68% of Republicans at the primary level are saying they wouldn't vote for him.
Right.
And that's not even the other 50% that are Democrats. So I still believe when push comes to shove, maybe he gets the nomination. I guess he might, but that's just suicide for the GOP.
He's winning Hispanic votes, though. It's insane. First of all, not only did he say something about anti-Hispanic, he's running against two Latino guys. It's unbelievable what's happening.
It is remarkable. It's like he's in Damn Yankees, the political version. Some sort of deal was made, and I have to say, as like you, someone that just follows all this stuff, if he becomes president, it's going to be the greatest thing ever in terms of just like
comedy.
Watching him, like millennia redecorating the Oval Office and gold plate and all. I mean,
right.
And I still think there could be a moment where he drops out and says, you know what, even if I'm president, the system won't let me do what I'm going to do.
Right.
And then he can leave as a winner. He can say, I would have won, but the system's too screwed up. But I don't know, man, because you look at the other side, the fact that Bernie Sanders he's in town in Chicago here right now, is giving Hillary Clinton a run for his money. He is Larry David.
Yes.
But Hillary Clinton is so unlikable and so turning off so many people. And every time I see Hillary Clinton, I think I just picture her going to the dry cleaner where they're like, so you have the 20 pantsuits and you're bringing 20 more in? Is that
That's what she looks like. You're right. She looks like a guidance counselor.
And she's just, you don't buy anything she says.
You're right.
Ever.
Yeah.
So if you got Bernie Sanders running against Donald Trump, that's insanity.
Yeah. No, look, Bernie Sanders, she's losing to a guy in some cases. Well, she's winning now, but for a while losing to a guy. Or getting a run for her money at the very least to a guy who's 112 years old. I mean, the guy, I do this joke on stage now. You know what an assassination plot against Bernie Sanders is? Just to wait.
Wait it out.
Yeah, right now all of us are killing Bernie Sanders.
You put a little extra salt on a steak. This will take him down.
He's 74. I mean, he's going to have old guy problems. He's going to lose his pants.
That guy was a senator. That guy was a senator for 100 years, and he had the little office like in the corner. He's never had any influence as a senator, and people just like all of a sudden they're like, well, that guy's not Hillary. I'll vote for him, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about not seeming. Modern. You don't hear him weigh in on opening the iPhone issue that much because I don't think he knows what the hell they're talking about. He's looking for a rotary iPhone. I don't know. It's saying a lot about how people just are done with the politician bullshit. Or they think they are, and they need something different. I don't know.
Well, in the meantime, I love, the whole Supreme Court thing, too. It's cracking me up because now, Obama's looking at even a Republican. I think the funniest thing for Obama to do, find the most conservative guy ever or woman and nominate them for the Supreme Court and say, well, all right, Republicans, you want him? No, we can't do it. It's not right.
Get their dream guy.
I think that the ultimate plan would be Hillary Clinton wins and then she nominates Barack Obama for the Supreme Court.
How about Hillary Clinton wins and just to shove it in people's face, indict yourself? Look, I just hope there is some artist documenting this. And who would play Donald Trump? Give me an actor.
Well, Johnny Depp did this thing on Funny or Die where he played like a young Trump, and he was pretty great at it. I mean, there really it is almost beyond satire, but even when you watch the footage too, like I can't. I'm like everyone else. I can't stop watching. But like you'll see Trump at a rally, and you'll see all these hot chicks behind him who clearly have been hired, and they're looking off, they're chewing gum, and they're like, "When do I hold my sign up?" And he doesn't care. He just doesn't care. And I know people who've been on the road with him. And Artie, you might know this too. You know, he doesn't. He's like a lot of people. He doesn't like to be touched, so he does his own makeup most of the time.
Yeah.
Which explains a lot.
Wow.
There's a guy. That's hilarious, by the way. Can I give him another color other than orange?
He's got that weird orangey thing going on, and then it's pink. It's just, it's astonishing.
Yeah, there's a movie there, and I hope it's. But
he's great, you know. And I know. Did you guys see where he was basically threatening the Ricketts family who own the Cubs here in Chicago?
Yeah, I saw that tweet. It's unreal. Like, what do they got going on?
And that's another thing he does. He whenever anyone goes after him, he's like, "I got a lot of stuff on you. Be careful." and you know, Tom Ricketts, who owns the Cubs here. You know, they're a multi-billionaire family, and it's actually his mother who was, you know, running these ads. And he's like, they're trying to talk about whether or not, you know, Anthony Rizzo is going to be the MVP. And people started asking him. He goes, "It's a little surreal when Donald Trump is threatening your mother."
Yeah. The Pope, the Ricketts mother, he'll take on anybody. Yeah, well, again, I'm addicted to it. I'm absolutely addicted. I cannot stop watching this coverage of it because it's, and he has gotten people into politics like never before. And you're right.
I mean, the audience for these debates, it's like Walking Dead numbers. You know, I mean, 23 million, 25 million, because he just starts yelling at people and insulting them.
You want... I mean, basically, Megyn Kelly asks him a question he doesn't like at a debate, and he basically says that she's on her period.
and all these other things about her. And, you know, you go back to that. The question she asked him was completely legitimate. You said all these things about women. How do you think that's going to play with the female vote? And he immediately said, "No, I just said that about Rosie." And to her credit, she's like, "No, you said this about it." But I mean, and that's all she did. She didn't ask. That's not an unfair question. And
no, I mean, you got to listen. Yeah, everything comes home to roost, man. They bring up everything in this. But of course, the charm he has with the audience, a huge laugh when he says the Rosie O'Donnell thing. And here's a poor woman, Rosie O'Donnell, sitting at home, not minding her business. All of a sudden, she's thrown into the middle of the debate. That's crazy.
Well, it reminds me of the classic thing when Limbaugh was on David Letterman a million years ago. I remember Rush Limbaugh had that horrible TV show for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And on his first show, he said the new White House dog is here, and he showed a picture of Chelsea Clinton, who was 12 at the time.
Oh, God.
12 years old.
Yeah, I remember that.
And remember, Letterman brought that up to Limbaugh, and Limbaugh started doing the shtick about how she wasn't attractive, and Letterman just took a beat and said, "Because you're such a perfect physical specimen." And Limbaugh spent the next, and Artie knows what this is like when you're a guest. Limbaugh spent the next 9 minutes flop sweating. He was done. He was done.
It's brutal.
He should have been done.
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, a 12-year-old girl. First of all, Chelsea Clinton might be the strongest psychological human being on the planet Earth. Look at what she has gone through.
It's true.
She seems just like a poised woman. She's the classiest person of the three.
You know what? It's actually remarkable when you think about it, because the same thing, like, the Bush daughters.
Right.
A lot of these girls who've grown up in the White House, and certainly, I mean, they're a lot younger, but Obama's daughters.
Obama's daughters. Look at those
strong.
look at those poor girls. They seem to be amazing human beings, and you know what? They have to. They don't have any choice. If one of them were like me, my God, I think I'm the reason Howard didn't have another kid. I think he looked at me and said, "Look, I'm 3 for 3. I'm not ready."
Uncle Artie is not the thing you ever want to hear.
No, I mean, I think he's got 3 beautiful daughters who are classy, and he's like, if we have me and Beth have one of them, that's Artie. I'm done. Trump actually was on the show once. I golfed 9 holes with Donald Trump once. It's weird.
Oh, really?
A few years ago for a charity. Me, him, and Eli Manning, who was a bit of a mouth breather. and okay, I'm telling you, Richard, you hit the nail on the head. By the end, I roasted him a couple of times, which was an experience. So I met him at the Stern. Always liked him just because of that honesty. He's the kind of guy. He's got that childish, vindictive thing, which I don't think will work in the White House. But he by the end of the 9 holes, we were goofing on Eli Manning like the whole time, like with his shirt, his face, his shot. We threw him off his game. He's like, "What are you guys picking on me?"
A Super Bowl court. Well, that's it, and you're right. He does have that. You meet Donald Trump and you kind of walk away like you just met the great Randini, because you're like, he's not a bad guy. I met him about now it's probably a dozen years ago, more than that. I had just gotten named as Roger Ebert's co-host, and we had some, one of those upfront things in New York or whatever, and of course he's backstage, and he walks over, the first thing he says is, "Richard, excellent choice. I knew you were going to get the job. I said to my friends over at Disney. He's naming people who were the actual people. I said to Mary Kellogg, the vice president of talent development at Buena Vista, that Richard's the guy. And then he says, Millennia, come over here. And she walks over like runway style. You need to meet Richard if you're ever going to be in movies. WABC, 6:30 on Saturday nights. Of course, it's on KABC Sundays. Watch the show. And he walks away and you're like, that's the greatest person I've ever met.
Yeah, no, he's just like... He's friends with everybody, and
then last year when I started ripping him on Twitter, he tweets, "Worst decision ever for Roeper to become Ebert's co-host."
That's what happens.
Ratings tanked. The show only lasted 1 year.
Yeah, that's what he does.
And I tweeted back. Actually, it was 9.5 years. No response. It doesn't matter,
He is really he's a special type of diplomat with everybody, but he will go back at you. Like a kid will. And, when I heard the Pope diss him, I said, my God, this could get... And here's why people like the Pope back down. And why I think if he goes against Hillary Clinton and she gets nasty, it is going to get crazy. Yeah. Filthy because the Pope knows he'll bring up those kids, the scandal, and they just don't fuck with this guy. He's a loose wire. We don't need that brought up anymore.
Yeah, that's a great point because you think of people like the Clintons or the Bushes, dirty politics. It's like, but they still play by certain rules,
right?
And Trump doesn't. He doesn't care. So that's exactly what he's doing. He'll say anything, and also he doesn't care if it's true or not. Yeah. Because if he says it, he's like, "Oh, that's what I heard." I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying some people have tweeted me saying it's true.
His ability to compliment in a passive-aggressive way and insult somebody in the same breath is extraordinary.
Look, he's a nice guy. I like him. He came crawling to me for campaign donations, and then the person will say, "I've never been in his office. I can prove I wasn't." It doesn't matter because he's already said that.
The Ted Cruz stuff now is like, look, I like Ted. He's a good guy. An insane liar, worst liar I've ever seen in my life, but a good guy. I like him a lot. Terrible liar. Apparently, he's having a bad time. But I heard some stuff personally. I'm not going to do it.
I heard he's having a tough time. Yeah.
I heard some stuff with his wife. I'm not going to get into it. But Ted is a good guy, nice guy. Apparently, I don't know, it's an illness. I don't know.
He does that thing where he'll tweet. I'm not going to sink so low to call Megyn Kelly a slut. I won't do that.
So funny. Oh, that's great. I used to do this thing about people in L.A. Like, there's a certain type of bullshitter in L.A. called what I call speed bullshitter, where they'll say something that's such incredible bullshit that even they can't believe it came out of their fucking mouth, and so they backtrack it real quick twice. So what did I used to say? Like a speed bullshitter would say something like this: "This guy we're going to dinner with tonight is Jack Nicholson's son. It's his nephew. He knows him."
That's so great.
This guy we're going to dinner with tonight used to date Jennifer Aniston. He met her. He watched Friends.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, I used to call him speed bullshitters.
I love that. I love that.
LA's filled with people.
Yeah, I get that sometimes too, where someone will say to me, they'll come in and start name dropping somebody. They'll say, "Oh, I actually worked on the Hunger Games," and I'm like, "Oh, interesting. Then the director of photography," and I'll just make John Bullshithead. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's great." I'm like, "Yeah, it's not a real person."
John Bullshithead.
Well, I rented it.
That's a great John Bullshithead. Yeah, the other thing in LA's got those people they're talking to you at a club or an event, and they'll really be into whatever you got going on until they see somebody more famous over your shoulder.
Oh yeah,
like, listen, I heard you're having trouble at home. Don't worry about this. These things can go away. I know the doctors say. Is that Fetty Wap?
Oh yeah, I call that the incredible two-headed transplant. Remember that movie, like Rosie Greer and Bruce Dern? There were two heads. I'll be talking to somebody at the Four Seasons in LA, and I'm like, "Rich, I got to tell you, man, I really admire you. Gave me a good review. I'm a screenwriter." "Oh my God, it's Sean Astin who played Rudy. I'll be right back."
That's amazing.
And they look the other head on their shoulder. They have an ability to look right past you.
Yes, for either a smoking hot chick or somebody more famous. Like, they're
like, "I'm sorry, my Aaron Sorkin-o-meter just went off. I'm going to leave you here."
Look, don't worry about it. I tell you, there's other auditions. Is that Tiffany Amber Thiessen? I got. Well, yeah. Listen, it's extraordinary. I do hope if it ever goes to a movie, I just hope an amazing filmmaker does it it's at least a documentary. I do know there are writers. I heard there are writers doing books, like about 10 that he let come on the.
And you know what? I love those, like on the campaign trail, like insider type stuff. Yeah. You know, if it's a good writer who gives you good stuff, you can't go wrong with that.
Right. All right, well, let's, we've been talking forever. It's so much fun, but let's talk Oscars real quick. Sure. I mean, like, I have not seen one of the films. I've been on the road. I've been the busiest I've been in a while. I do want to see when I watch these films is in a hotel room on demand. I started watching some of The Revenant. God, is that intense, man. Is he going to win? Is it his year?
Yeah, you'll love this. Of course, you can't bet on the Oscars in Vegas, but in London you can. But a lot of Vegas odds makers like to do it for fun. Leo DiCaprio right now is a 1-50 favorite.
He's got to win, right? It's got to be.
So the way I put that is the other four guys can show up, get drunk, have a good time because you're not going to win. And you know what? He should win, but it's a classic thing too. He's a popular guy. He's been nominated 5 times before. He hasn't won. So it's his time, and it is a great performance, but it's also an Oscar-winning type performance because he's covered in gruel, and he's got a big beard, and there's blood, and he's getting revenge. That's the kind of role that wins an Academy Award. So, yeah, he's going to win for sure.
So, I mean, now where are we at with the protest thing? Are Will and Jada still not going?
Will and Jada still not going. Because they've been oppressed their entire careers. It's been a tough road for them.
Clearly racism has stopped them from having a good life.
I think one of the most interesting things is, what Chris Rock is going to do, as the host.
He's in a weird spot. That's a good point, Richard. He's in a very weird spot. I know several of the guys writing for him are very, very good friends of mine. And he's so about the joke, and he's so ballsy. Yeah, he was an amazing guy for the Video Music Awards because he would just roast in sync, but you can't do that. Right.
I mean, you know how this works too. Don't you think he's really good at reading the room? And I don't just mean the audience there, but like nationwide. Like he'll do just enough and then move on.
Yes.
Right.
Well, yeah, but that like a typical great comic though, he can be. Fuck it, I'm gonna go for it.
You know what? I would love if he brought out 350 minorities and said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the Motion Picture Academy, these are people of color." You've never seen that before.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's going to do something like he's got to do a joke about it, right? Within the first.
There's no way he's not going to talk about it. Or maybe he does, a parody of the old Billy Crystal thing where he inserts himself in all these movies, like The Big Short. Right? Hey, look, there's a black guy over there. I have faith that he will handle it. Very well, and then move on. But you know this, Artie, too. It's like there's certain gigs, and one of them is hosting the Oscars. The other is like a Super Bowl halftime show. There's nothing you can do to win people over. There's never been an Oscar hosting job that got, fantastic reviews. You can't win because what you do is you do a 10-minute monologue, and then you're a traffic cop the rest of the time. Right. You gotta, just bring people on and off, and people say, "Oh, I thought Jon Stewart was going to be funny," or "Oh, I thought Letterman would do that." Well, it's an award show.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with it. Right. Super Bowl halftime, I can't believe this guy didn't sound that great. Well, they got 12 minutes.
Yeah. You need a good monologue. I mean, the first year you saw Billy Crystal do it, I mean, that's when it was ripe for parody. Yeah. You know what I mean? The timing was perfect. It literally was. The years before were literally those goofy dance numbers that they tried to take themselves seriously, and it was ready to get reamed. And Billy Crystal was a perfect guy for that. You said, okay, well, you know what? Like him or not, fan of his stuff or not, he gets it. And
Billy Crystal was the perfect guy too because he perfectly treads the line between being a kind of a corny, schmaltzy showbiz guy himself, but also being able to make fun of it. That's been his whole career. So, he's doing the song and dance numbers, but he actually loves doing the song and dance numbers. He's not taking a step back and making fun of that.
Right, he has that in him. I remember when I got the chance to do Martin Short's old talk show.
There's a great talent.
Yeah, I mean, I got interviewed by who's the fat guy? Jiminy Glick. Yeah. Jiminy Glick.
Oh my God, I've never seen that.
Jiminy Glick interviewed me and Norm. It never aired anywhere. He did it for us, literally to have on video for ourselves. And of course, I lost that with the Richard Pryor thing. But
do you have anything left, Artie, at all?
We were laughing. Like
so a Yankees jacket from '87. What do you have left?
He had first of all, this is pre-Stern, just after Mad TV. He had to look up information about me. He goes, Artie, I understand. Maybe someday you'll get into show business. But he got in the uniform, and he came to do it as a favor to Norm.
Wow.
And Norm said, hey, interview Artie too, man. And it was unbelievable. But I said to Martin Short, you do those cheesy guys like the cheesy Jerry Lewis, so perfectly. I go, how do you get that? He goes, because I have those guys in me. I want to be those guys. Secretly you do. And that's like Billy Crystal, too. He does like being that cheesy guy. It's a perfect observation.
Remember, there was a movie years ago, The Big Picture, with Kevin Bacon, where he's this young director, and Martin Short played the agent. And he's like, if you come with me, you're going to get two people. You're going to get a friend, a mentor, a brother, and he mentioned like seven things. You're going to get two people.
Well, it reminds you of how great those Second City. We used to talk at Mad TV in the writers' room about the greatest single cast for a sketch show ever was. And of course the original SNL, Monty Python comes up and stuff. The First in Living Color is up there. And to me, that SCTV in the late 70s is my favorite. Because they were on so late, they had no network involvement, and they were able to do sketches you would never do anywhere else. I mean, they did a Captain Hook, a Peter Pan parody.
Yeah.
Martin Short plays Captain Hook, and he does a David Steinberg impression.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Hook,
brilliant,
and Captain Hook makes people mad by telling them boring show business stories. I mean, that reference, where are you going to do that? It's so
You're so right. I mean, I can remember to this day, John Candy. Remember all those little late night commercials, like the greatest hits? And he did a skit where he's like, "Hey everybody, it's me, Babe Ruth the Bambino.
Yeah.
My greatest hits." He goes, "Remember this one?"
Yes.
And he just and what about this one? And he just kept doing it. Yeah, those are just some of my 714 greatest hits. And it's like, how do you even get away with that?
My cousin Jeff used to have my older cousin Jeff, who I looked up to with all this stuff, comedy, music. He had on tape a sketch. Bill Murray guest starred once on SCTV, and he played Joe DiMaggio as the owner of an Italian restaurant. It was a commercial for Joe DiMaggio.
Oh,
Italian restaurant. Martin Short plays the maitre d', and the entire time while people are being seated, DiMaggio's taking batting practice, and he keeps hitting people in the head as they're eating. They get hit in the head with baseball, and there's one shot where Martin Short's seating people, and he just gets hit in the head with a baseball. It's so fucking funny.
There was a documentary a couple months ago that came out about the National Lampoon.
I saw that. I saw that. Yeah.
And how great was it when they showed all the stuff these guys did, and then essentially Lorne Michaels was like, "Well, that'll be Saturday Night Live." But I mean, all that cast, Belushi, Murray, and they did that concert where Christopher Guest was get on with his James Taylor,
right?
And Belushi was doing his Joe Cocker, but half of that was Second City, not Saturday Night Live stuff.
Yeah, Look, I mean the buddy comedies they did on SCTV with Dave Thomas's Bob Hope and Moranis' Woody Allen,
right?
It's so fucking perfect. So that always got me. So DiCaprio wins. Chris Rock will look for the monologue. Rock is to me, Chris Rock is, if you had a name, the greatest comic of my generation, with fame and everything, specifically because of that special Bring the Pain with the political stuff and the smart stuff with an original delivery. It would be Chris. So we'll see what happens, because I'm surprised to see him back, because like a lot of great comics, he's considered an outsider with those motherfuckers out there, and they don't give people an easy pass, and he got a hard time, I thought. And Sean Penn said, gave him shit for making a joke about Jude Law. And
the thing with Chris Rock too is, I couldn't be a bigger fan, and he's never quite figured out how to translate that to movie stardom. You look at most of his movies, and honestly, they're not that good. There's some that are okay, and he should be a huge star. He should have gotten to an Eddie Murphy-like level, and he never really has. So he's also a little bit of an outsider, because it's not like people are in Hollywood going we need a Chris Rock show. I mean,
right.
I'd love to see him find a cool TV project to do, some sort of, something different, because as huge of a star as he is, he hasn't had the movie success he should have had.
Yeah, and he clearly wants that. He's a huge fan.
Absolutely.
Huge fan of Woody Allen. And the last one he did, Top 5, I thought had a lot of great funny moments.
Actually, I love that film, and it was an homage. And again, it's he tries to do something different, and people don't see it, so then he can't get to do the next project. You know how that works.
Yeah, the scenes with him and Rosario Dawson, like bantering on the street, are really amazing.
Brilliant, yeah.
So what other prediction? Is that going to win Best Picture too? What's Best Picture? Is there a lot?
Well, the cool thing, this year for Best Picture, it's actually cool because there's no usually we know for sure what's going to win. But there's 8 nominees. It could be The Revenant. It could be Spotlight. Or The Big Short. I think The Revenant might win. Right now there's a lot of momentum for that.
That has a shot of like sweeping type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This guy Iñárritu, who actually directed Birdman last year. I mean, the directing in that thing, he did what they call all natural lighting, so they did nothing on sound stages, all in Canada and other countries.
Right.
And if you see it, like the opening scene of The Revenant, or one of the opening scenes where the Indians attack, again. That was all whitewashed back in the day. This movie, you see like the arrows piercing guys' eyes and people's guts. I mean, it's like that's probably what it was really like.
Right. Well, after Saving Private Ryan, after the first 20 minutes of that movie, like how do you go back? How do you do another war movie? It's like after The Sopranos. Can a network television show ever be about the mafia again? It's just done right, and you got to step it up. Even with that stuff too, you got the Ridley Scotts of the world are making money. You get Ridley Scott with an unlimited budget, it's going to look good.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, again, I've never been less passionate about watching. When are they? Are they they're this weekend, right?
Yeah, they're Sunday night. Well, look, the Oscars have always been this way. It's mostly movies that people haven't seen. There's a few commercial hits. My favorite movie last year, my number one movie is this movie called Room.
Right.
Which, hardly anybody saw, but if you watch the movie and you'll never be the same after seeing it. And, the basic premise is there's a young mother with her son who's 6 years old, and they're in this little room, and they're kind of just going through their daily routine, and then you pull back and you realize they've been held captive in a shed for 7 years.
Wow.
And it sounds insane, except for we've had those cases, like in Cleveland. Remember the guy?
Sure, absolutely.
And then it takes off from there, and it's unbelievable. And Brie Larson, the actress who's in there, she's going to win Best Actress.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
See, it's amazing that I never even heard of it. That's unbelievable.
But you know what, Artie? Watch it, and you'll be like, holy cow. It's
that's
amazing.
why it's good knowing somebody like you. Now, that's for sure. I'll check it out. I know it will be a waste of time. So, again, I'll watch it. I'm really into, of course, I know Chris Rock pretty well, and I know about 14 guys writing for him who I'm pulling for. So I do want that monologue to be good. It's good for comedy, yeah. Go ahead.
Artie, can I ask you a question about that whole process?
Yeah.
So a lot of guys who are writing for him. Are they there that night, and do they change it up if certain things are working or not working?
Absolutely. That's the whole thing with the Oscars,
That's
especially
cool.
since Billy Crystal with the whole Jack, the guy who won.
Jack Palance with the one-arm push-up.
He did the one-arm push-up.
So if they see something that's going to become a theme, they'll be like, boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's it. When they write, there's guys with specific strengths, and everyone will write for Chris. Like, he just has to offer it to people.
Got it.
And
okay.
the kid who wrote and directed Beer League with me, Frank Sebastiano, writes for Chris all the time. He wrote for the last special and the last Oscars, and he's writing out there now. And he's an amazing joke writer, a joke machine. So there's guys who are monologue jokes. There's guys who could maybe write a pre-taped bit, like you were talking about. And there's guys who are great on their feet, like at the time. There's guys specifically with that skill where they're good at thinking stuff quick. I'll never forget the writers at the Norm show said to Norm, why don't we get some of those people who are on Whose Line Is It Anyway? They improv, they think of funny stuff so quick. They got to be a good person to write a sitcom script. And he goes, yeah, I'll get one of them when I need to write a script in 30 seconds. But Frank is a monologue guy. So, yeah, he gets, when you got that kind of budget, man, and you're him, he just picks and chooses, and he gets guys with different strengths. But they're absolutely there that night. They don't stop working until Rock is at the party,
That's really cool, though, too, because, one of those writers might come up with the one line that lives on forever.
Yes, absolutely. And that they have guys like my friend Nick DiPaolo, a great comic.
Oh, I love Nick.
Yeah, who's, a real artist. He's incapable of telling a lie, and that can get him in trouble sometimes. But Rock likes having him around because he's capable of maybe coming up on the fly with the funniest joke of the night. And when you can throw money at a thing, you do it. And I think they're not getting it this time. It's a little controversial, but last time all these guys like Frank and Nick, they all got the gift, the ultra gift bag.
Oh, did they? Like the swag bag?
Yeah, they had like a signed Les Paul guitar. A lot of them hawk the shit. It's hilarious.
Well, of course you have to, right? I mean, like, what is Nick DiPaolo going to do with 14 days at some spa?
You get 2 trips. He went with his wife on one and sold another one. That's what happened. It's a fun time. So we'll check it out. And what do you do for the Oscars? You care? You get together? You're probably with a broad hanging out, right?
Always abroad, of course. Well, I mean, for years I went out there, and then it's just like covering, this, like going to sporting events. There's certain things. It's much easier to cover it from your couch than to be in the middle of it, because you're like, I used to go out there and do the red carpet, and then, it's so funny because people be like, oh, you're filing your stories from the Oscars. I'm like, well, actually, we're in a tent outside the Oscars trying to get a good internet connection. So,
right.
My move now is I watch it at home, and I got somebody here who, will film some, like, or tape some quick little viral videos and stuff. That's the way to do it. That's the way to watch it.
Yeah, a few years ago we did stand-up in Hammond, Indiana, just outside of Chicago, and of course Richard was nice enough to come, and a fan tweeted me, how will I know it's Richard? I know him, but I don't remember exactly what he looks like. I go, look in the front row, find the hottest chick in the front row, and look to her right. You'll see, that's Richard. And sure enough, that was the truth. Hammond, Indiana, by the way, the single most depressing. We were at the Trump International Tower, actually, and the most gorgeous, modern Chicago hotel. God, it reminds me how much I love Chicago. When you came to join me to eat, that 16th floor of the terrace, it's like you're Batman in the dark.
By the way, Artie, that terrace.
Yeah,
that's Trump's hotel.
I know. Yeah, Trump.
And the one thing I will say about him, his properties, he runs them so well, and everybody at that place, they're so nice and so good. That's what he's really good at. But yeah, Artie and I were sitting on this like 16th floor terrace, having a blast,
eating hors d'oeuvres, but like what we're doing now, bullshit, laughing, and you feel like you're floating through Chicago, and it's just like I don't want to leave there. And I get in a van with David Tell and Jim Norton, and we're in Hammond, Indiana. There's a
and Artie, you told a story like on the way to Hammond, you saw like a guy with like, what was it, like on the side of the road on the way to Indiana?
Yeah,
he had like an ironing board or something.
The guy had. I'll tell you what he had. He had a blender. He had a blender for no reason, and he was just walking around like, where's he going?
And I'll tell this quick story too. When we're at this beautiful outdoor place at Trump, and then we moved inside because it was going to about to rain,
right. And
we got a lot of great appetizers in there, and this huge fan comes over, and he sits down with us, and I'm looking at Artie, and I'm like, okay, and the guy's like, oh, I know there's a lot of other people that want to bother you guys, but I'm a real fan, and I'm not going to move, and I'm waiting for Artie to tell the guy to move, and I'm finally like, all right, I'm going to be the dick, because Artie's the nicest guy in the world. This guy, I finally said, you have to leave. He goes, but I'm not like those other fans. I go, you're sitting with us. I get to see Artie once a year. You need to leave now.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm having a fun conversation with Richard Roeper. I need him to be involved with it.
It's the classic thing. Oh, but I'm not like those other stalkers. I'm like, you're sitting in the bank hat with us. Go away.
Yeah, let me tell you, I made the mistake of tweeting how much fun we were having, and that kid showed up. How scary is that? He saw the tweet, and that's why he came over there. But by the way, thank you for that. I should have said thank you a long time.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. Thanks, and this was great as always. And we'll look for the Revenant. I do say, it'll probably be cookie cutter, but I'm looking forward to see what DiCaprio says in a speech.
And I'll give you guys one last thought, Artie. I mean, I think the coolest moment is going to be when Stallone wins for Best Supporting Actor.
Is that going to happen? By the way,
yeah, he's going to win, and he should win, and that's going to be the standing ovation moment. That's going to be the coolest moment.
Yeah, you know what? And you got to give it to him, man. It should be. That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? You told me last time we spoke, and I watched that in the hotel room. That movie got me from the beginning. From the beginning, I was like, I'm into this.
I'll give you this as best as I can. One of the great things in the original Rocky, because they had like no money, so the final fight, he had a certain color trunks, and Creed did, and there's a scene right before the big fight, and Rocky says to the promoter, they got the trunks wrong. And the promoter goes, does it matter, Rocky? It's because they actually got the trunks wrong.
That's great.
They had him wearing the wrong color trunks, and they couldn't redo it. So they go, let's just do a scene where they said they got it wrong.
And I'll tell you what, it creates a real moment that they wouldn't have had, because it's Stallone seeing that they really don't give a shit about me. That adds an aspect to it.
And they're like, well, we just have to film it right now. So my trunks aren't that color. Does it really matter, Rocky? You're living the American dream.
Is anybody gonna care? That actor to me, he's like the kind of guy you find that had a sex dungeon with like drums, with kids decomposing in drums. That weird look and that slick back hair. Like, all I know is I'm a good promoter. I promoted fights in every country around the world. I don't know what the hell else I'm supposed to do.
Rocky, I'm offering you the chance of a lifetime. Go up against Apollo Creed.
Talks like Charlie.
It's a ham and egg. I don't know about that.
He picked you, Rocky. He picked you.
He picked you, Rocky. He picked you, Rocky.
He picked you, Rocky. You disgusting Italian.
You're swarthy.
You filthy greaseball. He picked you, Rocky. He picked you to sit in my office where I have valuable things. That's so fucking funny. You don't take no cheap shots. Yeah, Rocky. Well, who couldn't? You're a retard.
And when people they try to do like a thing like how many fights Balboa has won and lost, they always forget that he lost to Spider Rico at the beginning of Rocky. And the next day, Rocky says to Mickey, "Hey, you should have been in my fight. Who'd you fight?" Spider Rico. He's a bum. Spider Rico's a bum. And in Rocky Balboa, Stallone found the guy that played Spider Rico, and he has him playing a waiter at Rocky Balboa's place.
Right, that's right. Yeah, what a great detail. It's so funny. When I think about these kids at college campuses now wanting a safe place and all this, like that PC stuff that's going on, I think about them talking to Mickey about anything in life. I want a safe place. What the hell is a safe place? Go fuck yourself. A safe place. Go to Mickey's gym in Philly. That's a safe place.
I took away your locker because you're pissing all away, being a henchman for that monster. You're a bum, Balboa.
You became a leg breaker.
I'm going to actually act more than I did as the Penguin in the Batman series.
Again, you talk about obscure. Me and my friend are the only two people left who might, when we start talking, this other comic I know, we can't stop doing Richard Nixon impressions. It's the most irrelevant thing. But
oh my God, yeah.
So we're talking about Nixon maybe like reacting to to what's going on. I mean, my God! Look, Henry. He's calling. He's saying Megyn Kelly's bleeding from her pussy. How's he getting away with this? I don't understand. Is he? What about the Jews? How did the Jews get so involved?
Oh, the Jews! Oh, Artie, you're gonna love this. There's a movie coming out in about a month about the infamous meeting between Elvis and Nixon.
Oh.
They turn in, and Michael Shannon, who's a great actor, who's been in, Boardwalk, he's playing Elvis, and Kevin Spacey's playing Nixon.
Oh, that's great.
And they're just, the one little bit of their meeting is the truth, and then they're just going to make a whole movie out of it.
Yeah. Well,
because, Elvis showed up on a Sunday morning.
Right. And that picture is fucking amazing.
The most requested photo in the history of the Smithsonian Archives is that picture.
To me, the only thing that could beat it is Sean Penn and El Chapo. That's the only, that picture.
El Chapo.
That's my favorite thing of all time. El Chapo. There's a guy. He's a drug dealer. We're doing an impression actually of Aykroyd doing Nixon. It's not Nixon. It's Aykroyd. There's that one sketch on an SNL where, first of all, Aykroyd does.
Pray with me, Jew boy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
With Kissinger, right?
Wait, you didn't hear about the Cuban boy who was killed in Florida? Forget it, Henry. Get out on your knees and pray. You don't want to pray, Jew boy? We go over this every time, Mr. President.
So great.
Yeah. And when he's talking to Kennedy's picture, you having sex right here on these walls. They would give us the most nuanced notes at Mad TV about makeup, about certain things. We said, you know what? If you're funny, it doesn't matter. Aykroyd did fucking Nixon with a mustache.
Chevy Chase did Gerald Ford as Chevy Chase.
Yeah, just falling and hitting his head. That was the impression. Pretty incredible. You Kennedy.
Jew boy.
You don't want to pray? You didn't hear about the Cuban boy killed on the corner? Forget it. Let's pray. All right. Yeah, this is what happens. We do this for 14 hours on a Red Roof Inn. All right. Hey, Richard, you're the best, brother. Thanks so much for coming on, man. And We'll talk to you. Try to maybe give us a day after the Oscars.
Yeah, as I say, if you want to talk next week, right after the Oscars, we'll do a recap.
Yeah, we'll get a reaction. And anything you want to plug at all, or
RichardRoeper.com, Richard Roeper on Twitter.
Yeah, check it out. Twitter's amazing.
I'm also at twoboy.com.
Yeah, if you want to have fun on Twitter too, he's the best. So fucking funny as always. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Artie.
Be well, buddy.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah. That's one of our best guests. Possibly our best guest. He's just a guy. Yeah, he's a guy. You know, it is funny. He mentioned that we were talking in Chicago. We were at the hotel, and I do look forward to seeing Richard. You know, because you know he's a guy that you have. You know, rare. There's not a lot of guys you can have conversations like that with those references. And, you know, Danny's like that too. There's guys. Jack Parr. You know, how many people can you say Jack Parr? Doing Aykroyd as Nixon or whatever, but. So I was having fun, relaxing, which I rarely do on the road, and having hors d'oeuvres in this beautiful area in the Trump hotel. I mean, say what you want about Trump, man. He did fucking bravo with that Chicago hotel. It's so amazing. Every broad is more smoking hot than the next. When I golf with Trump and Manning, every third hole, a 10, an Arizona 10 would give us a hot dog, and I would goof around with Trump. Trump would eat a hot dog first of all. It was just so funny. He talks about how he likes McDonald's, which is hilarious. And again, stuff like that. He's showing human emotions, which is why he's winning, I think. And I said to him, I go, Donald, kidding around. I said, do you interview all these hot chicks? With a full mouth, he goes, as many as I can. Dead serious. It was so funny. But yeah, and so I'm talking to Richard, having a blast, and this kid comes up who's basically like, you know, a kid that was just online at the Fetty Wap concert. Thinks Lil Wayne is the voice of his generation, that type of kid. And he's interjecting his wonderful opinion. And I'm overly nice. Danny knows. I'll keep talking to that kid because I feel maybe the kid has problems. Eventually those kids will tell me they look up to me, and I go, oh my God, you're going to die if that's the case. Please don't look up to me. Look up to anybody else. Get the SAG list of celebrities. Throw a rock. The name you hit, look up to. Before me, look up to that guy or girl. Not a broad. Hit a guy, I guess. You know, we need manly emotions in this country. Yeah, the safe place.
And Richard told me that right after it happened, because I wasn't there, that there was also a woman involved. Like, he thought you guys were gelling well, and then this guy kind of broke it up.
Yeah. No, right, exactly. we were having fun. We were doing what we just did. We were laughing like that, having a fun conversation. And this kid comes in and goes, who's Jack Parr?
He just sits down at the table.
I tweeted like an idiot. You know, you forget that you're somewhat famous, and I'm with another famous guy. You know, on a national level, obviously Richard, you know, has more fame than I do. Maybe he's like a B, a solid B. I'm a solid C on a good day. But you don't realize that at times, especially if you're not born that way. I wasn't any type of celebrity 26 years of my life, and you forget about that sometimes. I tweeted out, "Hey, me and Richard Roeper having fun took a picture with this hot chick and went back." And this kid is 2 blocks away at a bar and it follows me on Twitter and sees it, comes over, sits down. Hey, you tweeted this. Thanks. Like I called him. He goes, thanks for telling me. He said, thanks for telling me you were here. I didn't tell you. I told 300,000 people that, hoping none of them would come. Well, maybe Monica and Rick from LA. All right, and Mix and Plex. And Jim Knox. All right, the great Richard Roeper. Thanks, Richard. So much fucking fun. And we'll do a rap later. Bear with us. I have an insane head cold, guys. It caught up with me. 48 years of bad living. So bear with me.
I had it for a month. I couldn't move. You knew I never left the bed for a month.
All right, yeah, let's not get that intimate about our living arrangements. I don't know where your bed is. I was worried. But I have a very bad head cold. So bear with me, and I apologize for making noises like a rhinoceros, but we had to talk to Richard. All right.